we go. My name is Martha. I'm just here to share my testimony and the goodness of God, His faithfulness, His grace, His love, His compassion, His mercy, His abundance, His joy, His love. He's so amazing and so sweet and so loving. And, the way that the world sees God is as a judgmental God, someone who condemns, but He's not. He's so sweet, so tender, and so merciful, which is what He calls us to be for each other, for one another, forgiving one another, we're all fighting a battle that we get caught up in our own selves and not knowing that other people have other things going, even if someone's life may seem so put together and perfect, we all battle the same enemy. He battles all of us the same. He comes at us to steal from us, to kill ourselves, like internally, to kill our spirit, our thoughts, our minds. He brings oppression, depression, so much hurt, and we blame God, and we blame ourselves, but we don't blame Him. We don't blame the real enemy. And I'm here doing this because this is something I would never do. And those who know me or have known me, known of me or whatever, I was always a very shy person. I was very to myself. I was always very ashamed of myself, of my life, my surroundings, my lifestyle, my family, honestly, where I came from, who I am, who I was. I'm no longer that person. That it's gone. I'm a new creation, a new creature, as the Bible speaks about. Renewing our mind, renewing our thoughts, and just knowing the authority, the power that we have in us, and it's not us, it's God in us. Okay, hold on. I got a baby here. Okay. So it's my baby, Judah. Say hi. But just kind of gonna go over a little bit of my life in the past 30 years. I'm 32. But for 30 years of my life, I lived in so much oppression, so much fear, so much limitation. My mom is a very fearful person. She's very oppressed. She was always, just a sec. Okay. I have my other baby here too. I have 3 kids. So, anyways, this is my new one. He's so cute. Say hi. Okay, so my life. So my mom was just she's gone through a lot in her life, and even in the womb she was, there was so much that she had to go through in her own and her mother, so it's a generational thing, as we know in the Word. If you do read the Word, you know that there's a lot of we're the product of our generation too, and the curses that were laid out before us, we come into them. And at this generation that we're in, we're actually called to break those curses and break those cycles. And that's why we're here. And that's why I am here talking about my life. I'm one who never spoke about myself. I never spoke about my life. I never spoke to anyone about my hurt. I was very ashamed. I was always in condemnation, and I didn't like sharing anything about myself because I felt like there was nothing to share. Like, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a family. I didn't have my sisters. I never made memories with anybody. I never had grandparents. I didn't have my cousins. I had them. I didn't know them. My father, my dad, who had like a big family, they were all most of them in Mexico, but he was just never close with them. They were always very much in friction, very prideful family. They just never really kept in contact, and we never really had any memories, and it was just really hard because I grew up in a small town. Oh, baby. And everybody was like related, and I always felt like the oddball, the lonely cat, you know. And it was just very hard growing up to see others, have what I wanted and I didn't have. So, yes, hold on. Anyways, I always felt weird, I always felt like a weirdo, let's be honest. I always felt like I just was oppressed. Now I know the wording to it. I always felt like there's something wrong, got like a black cloud. And I had a sister, and I'm not trying to speak negative about anybody. It's just my experience and my truth and what I've gone through and how God has helped me overcome very much in my life. But, I had a sister who reminded me of that a lot of, but looking back, just like the word says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. It's not her. It was the spirit in her, it was the spirit speaking. And trust and believe, there's been a lot of spirits speaking against me, to me, oppressing me, or trying to, everywhere I went, work. I worked at a restaurant for a long time, and even my own employer, dumbed me down. I mean, there's just everywhere I went, I was facing things, so it put a lot on me. Like, I was wearing everybody's opinions about me, and I just didn't know myself. I didn't know my worth. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything, what I liked, what I didn't like. I just followed the crowd of, let's go out and party and get drunk and go dance around and just, do it all over again, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. This is the life, right? But in all reality, it was just so much I was masking inside, and I was hurt, and I was in pain, and I was just so full of shame and condemnation and hurt from the enemy, and using everyone around me to continue to feed those lies, for 29 years. I mean, honestly, 30, 31, 32 years. I'm 32 now, I'll be 33. I was baptized last in 2019. So for that long, well, the enemy stole from me. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because no more. I refuse to let him win. I refuse, in the name of Jesus, that he will not ever take another moment of my life. And I'm here to encourage other people and to know that God is so real. He's so true and so sweet and so kind and so loving. I mean, I praise him all day long. I just cannot help it. He is so cute and such a restoring father. He loves us so much, and I am his vessel. I've surrendered my life to the one who is worthy to be praised, and he is that, and he is much more than that. I actually grew up Catholic. I never really knew Christianity, or I grew up in a ritualistic environment in all senses, not just going to church, but I went to church at like a very young age, every Sunday, I was Catholic, going, with my sisters, my mom. And I remember just sitting there and I would just say, what the heck is this? And I'm not trying to bash anyone, I'm just speaking the truth. I'm very honest. Like, I'm unapologetically honest, because I have no one to impress. So I was just like, what is going on? Why is this the same thing over and over and over? And like, so it felt so dry. I was like 10 years old. I really never knew why I felt that way. I always thought I was just rebellious, but it was God giving me wisdom, and now I walk in that wisdom, and I'm so happy that He's given me that spirit of wisdom, that He's given me so much. Oh, baby. So much wisdom and knowledge, and it's not to boast about anything. It's just to, now I see and I can tell you what it was, and now I know what it was. So I went to church every Sunday, and I grew up in a very much a lifestyle where it was all the same, like the same foods, the same routine. Like my mom was just such a, she always wanted comfort, and her comfort was a very, I'm not trying to be rude, okay, I'm just honest, like a very stale type of environment. Like it was just very routine. There was nothing fun about it, in my own self. And like, because who I am, I'm just a little bit more playful, and I like to joke a lot. That's just how God made me. I mean, that's just who I am. So it just was really stale for me, and then not in a rude way. I'm not trying to be bashful. I've had my own moments where I had to apologize to my mom for being really, just making her feel bad for the way that I feel, because I'm just so intense, like with my feelings. I'm just always giving everything. I'm just 150 with everything I do, and I'm just like to have fun. I think in life you should have fun and enjoy it, because that's why we're here. Do the work of the Lord and have a good time doing it. I just have to sip a little bit. Anyway, so growing up, I just was really much in, I was surrounded by a lot of hurt, a lot of word curses. I grew up with my dad is very much an alcoholic. He was, I guess, right now he's still unfortunately having his issues, but he okay, so anyways, back to it. He was an alcoholic, and he was very abusive, and my mom was a very timid individual who just grew up in a very it's just a very oppressive environment. It's heartbreaking to know that so much of your life can be stolen. You know what I mean? Your life, your experiences, your inheritance. I mean, just so much. And there was so much stolen from her. Like, it's reality. She's 61 years old. Like, everything in her life, was taken. And it's just such a sad reality, because I love her, and I of course I love my mom. She's a great person, but it's kind of like I have such a fire in me because I've seen it. I've seen the way that the enemy takes, and it just I'm intense with my prayers. I go in, but God uses that, when God says that He makes His enemies His footstool, it's so real. Like, He has used all the bad to ignite in me such a fire, such a willingness to be put out there like I'm doing, because this is not something I would do, but to speak without fear of man, and I don't have that fear of man anymore, and I just have a fear of God, and not doing not hitting my purpose, or not even doing His will is what I fear. To see Him one day, and what did I ever do with myself? Why didn't I walk in the truth of why He made me? And those are things I think about, because I'm deep. So I grew up in that type of environment, and it really was, to say the least, I was just very hurt. I was a feminist, okay? Watch out. People thought I was, I was just a bitter person, I guess. Like, people thought I was just angry all the time, which I was. I was very angry. I was very angry with my father for promising things that he never came through with, and not showing me my value as a person, as a woman, and not being a provider, and just being very selfish, and growing up oppressed and hurt. And deep down, I had such a hatred for men. I never wanted to depend on a man. I said I would never, like, such a feminist move, right? I would never depend on a man. He will never, do for me the way that I can take care of myself. That's just was my mentality. So okay, go eat it. So I had boyfriends, but I never really I was just lost. Let's just be honest. I was lost. I was a contradiction. I said this and I did that, and I was a fool, and I was drunk, and I was just very much lost. Go eat it on the table, okay? Oh. I just was so full of contradiction, and just I didn't know better. I didn't know better, and so I made a lot of really bad moves. And I just lived a life where I didn't care to follow rules, because I always felt like that's all I was living, was in constriction and rules and fear, in a box. So I went through a phase where I went to college and I started partying, and I had no fun. I mean, I had fun at the time, I guess, but no joy. I was just trying to get a fix for attention and validation. I never really saw it was wrong. There was anything wrong with that, because that was what the world was telling me. Like, this is just a normal thing. You go to college, you go and party, and you find yourself, right? I mean, I was just doing what the world told me to do. I didn't know any better. My parents, never went to college, and okay, baby. Okay, just throw it away. Okay. They never, they weren't aware of much, and I just learned from the world, and deep down I always knew better. Like, I just knew in my heart, and now I see that God was with me all this time. He always spoke to me, like, in my heart. He just always gave me wisdom. Mommy. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, when I was in school, I was around teachers who really spoke, and I was very smart, smarter than I thought I was. I never had my parents to encourage me, to tell me, good job, like, I'm proud of you, or you're smart, you're able, you're capable. I never had that. And it's sad, because even when I was in school and I was getting good grades, I didn't believe that of myself. I never believed that I was good enough. I felt invisible, and you may look at me and be like, okay, you like to do your makeup, you like to get dressed, and I do love to be, I've always been this way, but I still felt invisible. Like, I felt like I wasn't seen, I felt very, just much in the background, and I was okay with it, because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to. But, I mean, I have children now. I have 3 kids. My daughter she's 8, and she's in 3rd grade. So now I'm so purposeful with speaking life, speaking that life, that truth in her, because we need it. Let's be honest. Like, the word of the Lord is spirit. It's truth. It's projects in us. Like, I'm so passionate of reading the word. Like, I love reading the Bible, and I love to read, and I never knew that about myself. I never knew that, because growing up, like, the norm was to just clean the house, honestly. And there was nothing that I learned about me. Like, I didn't have the ability to have my parents around, or they didn't have the ability to spend time with us, because the world system takes us from our children. The world system is set up for your children to be raised by other people, by the cartoons. Okay, yes, my son's watching Ryan's Toy Review over there, I know, but I'm picky with what he watches, because I see everything now, and the veil was torn. God took it from me. He gave me new eyes to see, and my own life is a testimony of it. So anyway, I'm so passionate, I'm sorry, because of my life. What else can I be? And my family was just never there to speak words of truth in me, but I did have, the school thing. So I was kind of in and out of school from 18 to 24. I didn't know what I wanted. I went to school. I was just like, well, whatever. I don't know. I'll figure it out, and in and out of school, no drive. But then when I went back to school when my daughter was a year old, and I made it a goal. I said, you know what? I was always very driven, not gonna lie, but I was lost. But I went back to school. I went to this private school that I was seeing on TV, and I just called, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna be a nurse. And I went, and I didn't pray, because I was still not in prayer at the time, but I was very grateful. Like, my heart changed a lot after I had my daughter, and I would just sit in my car and just say, God, thank you. Like, I just thank you. Like, thank you, because he was bringing joy in me, like joy that I never had, and peace that I never had, and I just wanted to say it. So I went and I spoke to someone who, signs you up pretty much and gives you the lowdown on how you can achieve your goal. So my representative, or my counselor, so I was talking to her. She goes, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what is your lifestyle like? Or what do you enjoy? What is it, And I told her, hey, I have a daughter. I have a 1-year-old daughter. She is beautiful. And, like, I was flourishing being a mom. I never thought I was going to be a mom. I mean, I never had that aspiration in me. I never wanted to get married. Not that I never wanted to get married. I just never thought about it. I never really cared about it. I was okay with being in myself by myself. Like, I didn't want to share my life with anybody. I was ashamed. Like, how am I going to share? I never lived with a boyfriend. How am I going to share nothing with somebody? That's how I felt. And so she spoke to me and was like, I think that you would really like being a dental hygienist, because sounds like you really want to be there with your mom, with your daughter, and you want to have that type of like lifestyle. And at that moment I was like, oh my God, I love my teeth, I've never had braces. God blessed me with good teeth and a really nice smile, right? Well, not to brag, I'm saying. And he just blessed me with a nice smile and good teeth that I never had to actually pay and invest in, really, other than cavities and fillings. But thank you. It just was like an awe moment, and I was like, God, this is what I meant to do, So I went in and did it, and I went to school, and I've been in the field for actually 3 years now. So schooling was already 3 years, so it's been about 6-7 years from that time. But the schooling was 3 years, and during this time I was still mentally oppressed. Okay, I was reading the Bible every morning to encourage myself at school, because everyone talked about how hard it was. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. And I was like, let me just do the best I can do. I'm gonna get in the first time around. This is what I'm doing. There's no way around it. I'm doing this. And I did it. I got in right away. I had pretty good grades, I'd say. I tried. I had a lot of time for myself to study and to be good, blah blah blah. So but I still inside, I just had doubts, like, of myself. I didn't have courage. I was still very shy, you know. When presentations time was coming around, I was just always like nervous, and it was kind of humiliating how I just couldn't focus. Like, I just felt so much of shame, you know. I didn't know what I was saying. Like, I just couldn't engage, you know. I couldn't engage. I had a fear of public speaking. I had a fear of being put in the spot. I had a fear of people noticing me. So I just got through it, and I just prayed through it. And that's when the word of the Lord, I would play it in my car on my way to my school, and do it, you know, just find that courage within me to feel like I could do it, you know, because all my life I was spoken like what I couldn't do, who I wasn't, my inability to be better. And it wasn't just my family. It was like everywhere I went. It was just, I felt so limited. And I know a lot of us feel that way when we're called for something, when we're called in the kingdom, you know, when we have an anointing and a mantle. We have, you know, just like the Lord says, you know, if the world loved you, it's because you belong to the world, you know. And it's just hard to imagine, you know, just as a mom now, like, and I'm not shaming anybody, and just making a point that now that I'm a parent, I'm just so passionate with speaking life into my children. And I wasn't always like this. I'm not gonna say I was always like this, but there was a moment I was still with my daughter, like up until she was 5 or 6. Honestly, I was still blinded. I was still oppressed. I was still thinking that I wanted to be what the world told me I had to be, you know, have a lot of friends, go to parties, go and have a drinks, and oh my goodness, go show off your outfit, you know, all of those things. And when I met my husband, you know, he met a very broken woman, a very broken girl. He met a girl who was full of shame and full of blocks, mental strongholds. Man, it was just, you know, I loved him. Like, he was just so comforting. Like, there was just something about him that was just so, I'm gonna backtrack. So I was at that stage in my life where I would meet people, you know, and it was just like, we talk, whatever, and it was always, it just wouldn't work out, you know. Obviously it just wouldn't work out. And because, you know, I'd meet these people out in the club and like, or whatever, I don't know, it was just never right. So, but I didn't really mind it because I wasn't ready to be myself with someone. I wasn't ready to be vulnerable with a person. Like, I wasn't ready to share my life with anybody. I would look at people, I'm like, how do they do that? Like, how could they just live with someone enough and just share everything? It was just so odd to me. And I mean, when I met my husband now, like, he was just so kind, and he loved me, and he would be so sweet, you know, and so kind and loving and thoughtful, you know, and just like, he treated me well, you know. And it was just kind of like, what is this? I would always chase the wrong things. Like, I would lament over who didn't like me versus embracing those who did, right? I mean, there's so much to that because we focus so much on what we don't have, who we don't have, what we don't do, and like, the blessing is just passing us. So, you know, it was very hard for me to break my walls down with him. So I pushed him away a lot. I was very rude. I was very condescending. I was very unkind. I was very just filled with rage that came out that I had towards my own father, that I just promised myself I would never put myself in a vulnerable situation like my mom. I would never be like her. You know, I'm never going to be this person. I'm never going to be that person. I'm never going to be with this person. I'm never going to let myself be that. But the words that we point and judge others, they come back to us, you know, and that's just the truth. You know, the governing, the heavens are, it's a government, it's a system, you know. This system is the fallen system that is from above. Like it's a copy of, I guess, if that's how you want to say it. I can't find the word. And legality, you know, that all those things, it's a system. So man, what was I saying? I don't remember. So I really did forget what I was saying. Anyway, but I'm just gonna go back to, you know, the way that I felt. Oh yeah, now I get it. Now I understand what I was saying. So all of that came back to me. I had to endure infidelity in my marriage. And it's such a long story. This is like another whole nother thing. But the first year of my marriage, first couple months of my marriage, my husband was unfaithful for a long time, for almost a year. And during this time, I was actually pregnant with this one. So it was recently, this last year, after living in sin for a long time. And this is what I'm saying, like, God is so sweet and so patient. He is just so, what people don't even know, what a loving God he is. He is so patient. You know, he called my heart in 2017, and it's now, 2019? I mean, that's when I first started to read the Word. And 2020, 2021, I mean, it's been such a process that he's sweet. You know, he gives us time. And when people keep talking about, you know, the end times, we are in the end times, but he gives us time to fully really engage in him, like really learning him, and not just giving us too much. You know, he knows us all so personally that he knows exactly what we need. All we have to do is say yes. You know, it's not just like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect overnight. No, like, for me, what it started was the renewing, was not listening to bad music. I just felt so condemned at the time. I stopped listening to rap, and I was just like that girl that just loved to go party and didn't dance around. Like, I know I got the grooves, you know, I got the rhythm. I loved dancing. It was just so much fun for me at the time, and I just stopped listening to the condescending negativity that just bombards your mind. Okay, my life completely changed, and the reason why I stopped was because I kept seeing the number 666. Like, I would go on my treadmill, and somehow, some way, my eyes would just, it was just the weirdest thing, you know. And then I realized the things that I was doing, you know, I was living in sin. I was living in what do you call it? Gosh, I know this word. Not adultery. I was living in fornication. That's what I was saying. Fornication. Living in that sin of fornication. And I really didn't know better. you know, and there's just so much to it that I don't really want to get into, but I was living in a fornication with my husband, or my fiance at the time, and who was the same one, but God kind of called me and revealed to me and like put a evidence in my heart that I was sinning. Mind you, we had 2 kids at the time, so I said, you know what, I feel terrible. Like it was to the point where I just could not even do that anymore. And I told him, like, you know what, like, this is wrong. God is speaking to my heart, and this is not right. And I was watching a lot of videos about people in hell, and that reality was made so real in me that it scared me. And I started to think, oh my gosh, like my children, my husband, my fiance, my family, like, we're all gonna end up there. You know, like the Bible talks about, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And so I just stopped doing that. And it just caused a lot of friction, because here you are, you know, used to doing those things and having children out of wedlock and doing so much. And mind you that my husband and I, we were always fighting. Like, you know, we both come from very chaotic families. My family, my dad and my upbringing taught me to be, well, you're not going to tell me what to do. And, you know, very arrogant, very prideful, not submissive, not very ladylike, you know, how God calls us to be in the Bible. And I was just always very much against him. And he was very much against me, because I hurt him a lot. I cut him deep. I spoke words of death in our marriage, in our relationship. I was very blinded. And I didn't see a lot of what he was doing. He was such a sweet man, like cleaning, cooking, working 2 jobs, you know. And I was in that, not good enough. You're not doing enough. You know, I was always compensating, like, for the lack that I felt in my life. And I never knew what I was doing, really, like, that I was doing that. But I cut him hard. Like, I cut him deep, and I did a lot of damage. You know, I prayed for my husband, and it wasn't even anything intense. It wasn't, oh my gosh, like, I need, you know, years of praying. It was actually one prayer that God really answered. And I knew when I met my husband, because I had prayed, I was like, I told God, you know what, God, I'm ready for the one you have for me. I wasn't ready, but he answered, and I met him. And when I met him, I didn't appreciate him, and I wasn't ready for him. And it's been a lot that I did, but I also allowed the enemy to steal my family almost. And God is so good. He's so faithful and sweet, and he's so sweet, and he's so true, and he's so kind, that he's doing a new thing. And right now, what the goal is to establish a family covenant, to establish faithful families that come together, that sup together, that live together in unity and in grace and in love, in power, in thriving businesses, or whatever, you know, whatever you're called to do. But in the families that we never had, you know. And right before I found out that my husband was doing what he was doing, God spoke to me. I broke down. I said, God, I just felt it in my spirit. I knew that he was doing it, and I just couldn't catch him. He was very sneaky, I guess. And I just never was really invasive with him, to be honest. I never really checked his phone a whole lot. Like, I never really cared that he was doing stuff. Like, not like that, but like if he had his Instagram blocked or I couldn't see it or get into it. I just never cared because I know I wouldn't do stuff like that. And, you know, and I never really believed that he would. But mind you, I was still being mean. I was still talking down to him and being disrespectful. And one day I just was like, God, I've had it. You need to tell me. You need to tell me now what is going on. I ended up blue. Good job. What's color? What is this?
Orange.
Almost. Yellow.
Yellow.
And he answered me.
Yellow.
Okay, the next day.
Pink.
Yellow. I had a patient.
Yellow.
Yes. Who came in. Okay, random. Like, I'm a dentist.
turns.
So, I meet a lot of people. And so God sent this man. I had to do a deep cleaning. And he walks in, normal. I mean, nothing. I didn't think much of anything. He had this scarf around him. And it was just like a really thick scarf. It was like winter time last year. And he said, I was like, oh, I love your scarf. You know, small talk. I am very good at that. And he's like, oh, my wife made it. And I'm, oh, that's sweet. You know, he's like talking about his wife. It was the sweetest thing. And I just, in my heart was so sad. Because I was like, God, I wish my husband would speak like this about me. And how good are we to blame other people for what they don't do? But then we don't reflect on what we do to not allow them to do those things, right? You know? So I'm very real and honest with my feelings and myself and the things I've done, because I'm grateful that God has given me that wisdom to know and understand in a different level, where I'm not blinded by the enemy to allow me to lie to myself. So the fact that I knew that my husband wasn't speaking those things about me was because, did I really give him a reason to? Not really. So it was just like I was in such a hard moment where I just knew something was going on, you know, and in my spirit I knew, and I just prayed to God about it. And so I was doing his cleaning. I had administered some anesthetic or whatnot. It's blue. Yes. And so he said something that really was, wow. He said, my wife saved my life. And I looked at him, and in my spirit, I was like, oh my God, like, and I told him, I was like, in my spirit, I knew, it was like, I have to say this. I feel like God needed me to hear that. And he said, my wife saved my life. She prayed for me so much. And he, you know, was there, you know, when he was doing things and being in the world. And he hurt her so much. And he told me how much he loved her. And, like, he was so sweet about her. And it was just, like, so adorable. And at the end of the appointment, he prophesied over me, and that was the first time anybody had ever done that. Like, nobody has ever prophesied ever. So he just said, you know what, God is faithful and he's going to do it. And, you know, he said you have been carrying your marriage all this time. We had just gotten married, and but we had gotten married, and at this point it was probably it was like 7 months. And he said, you know, you've been carrying your marriage all this time, and God is getting ready to break that from you, to lift that burden from you. And he just told me that he knew that God was going to do it, that he was going to save my marriage. And mind you, I'm the type of person who was like, we'll never be with somebody like me.
Like, I will just move on. I will do better. But now I have children. You know, I had not just found out I was pregnant with my third, but I wasn't planning on having any more kids. You know, I had my 2 kids. I had my schedule going. I had a new job I really liked. I had a lot. I didn't have my marriage. I had a broken marriage. A marriage that I promised I wouldn't have. Okay, no more. Mommy's talking. And I was so hurt for such a long time, you know, and I was so hurt. This was before I even really knew that he was doing what he was doing. I had bought a GPS tracker, and I prayed about it, and I said, God, you know what? If this is what you want me to do, then I'm going to do it. No, I didn't pray. I bought it, and it didn't work. And I knew God was saying, trust me. God was saying, trust me. This was earlier before the prophecy. And I was just like, God, I was so sad. I was pregnant, you know, and the social media does such a good job with highlighting relationships, and it was just like, I want that. I was so sad for my children, for my kids, and it was just such a hard time in my life. I was so hurt. But I decided that I would trust God, that I would listen to Him, that I would trust Him. You know, here I am with 3 children. It's not just about me anymore. It's my kids and their life. And it's about their future. I was a broken child. I wasn't gonna let that happen to them. And the easy thing to do is to go and meet someone new, you know, and God spoke to me that He is my husband. He is my kingdom house husband. He is the one that He made for me. And no woman, nobody was gonna take that, because that's what God ordained. Even when I didn't want him back, I was like, no, don't want that. You know, honestly, I loved him, but I was just like, I would never allow myself to be with a liar and a cheater. I'm pregnant, for God's sake. And I spoke to a couple who really spoke life into me, and they really had such a fire and wisdom from the Lord, and they really, really hear from God, and they really do the work of the Lord. And they spoke like, Martha, he is hurt. He is not doing this because he's a pervert, but he's hurt. And I had to learn how to pray for my husband while he was cheating on me. And I prayed for him when I knew that he was doing what he was doing. We had just gotten married. He was getting hotels with this new chick, romancing, getting massages, doing the things that we should have been doing. Hey, no. So, I was very hurt, but also in reality, you know, I know that God used him to change me and to really get in touch with who I really was. And he used him.
to slow me down, to not live in a fantasy world of partying and just to like mask my emotions through that. He didn't. My husband at the time, or he at the time that wasn't really into that at all. He was just like working, you know, providing for us and just being a man of honor. And I was ungrateful. I was still so much caught up in the environment, in the world. Like, I would be like, I just want to party, you know, I want to have fun. But I had a choice. Was I gonna listen to the word of God? Was I going to fight for my family, for my children? Was I going to fight for what's mine? Or am I going to let the enemy win? Whoo, don't get me started. No. And trust me, I laugh now, but I wasn't. I was crying to God so much. You know, he moved me. He moved me from our place and to a beautiful complex, and I spent my whole summer, a good chunk of my life, 3 or 4 months, by myself, pregnant, as a single mother, buying groceries, carrying waters upstairs, you know, taking care of our 3 kids. Even when my baby was born, he wasn't around for the first 2 months, which is something I would never have thought would have happened because he was very much active with their lives. But God is so good that he restored me during that time. He healed me. He just loved me. He taught me so much, and he gave me joy. And trust me, I was still hurt. I was crying and like, God, really, what's going on? Why is my life breaking apart? Like, what is up? But every single day he showed me, this is your husband. You have to pray and fight. You have to. Because I realized I spoke death in my marriage. I broke my marriage and my family because of my hurt. And it wasn't because I was trying to be mean. It was just because the enemy stole so much from me. All my life, he stole from me. He made me angry. And he made me hurt. But I'm not that person. And you're not either. We're not. God is so sweet. And we have to lay down our own selves, our pride, our arrogance, our hurt that blinds us, for our children and for ourselves, to walk in freedom and to walk in abundance and in love and in grace. And like I learned what the gospel really meant. The gospel means forgiveness. And I'll never forget what my counselor said. He said, you are ultimately doing what Christ did. You lay down your life for those who don't deserve it. Because I was pregnant and I was his wife and I wasn't doing stuff. I was working, you know, doing my grinding at the same time. Like, I was wanting to party and do stuff, but, you know, at the time I was like, oh, you know, it was rude to him, but like, I was still a woman of my word too. Like, I wasn't just partying, okay? I wasn't just doing that. I was doing what I needed to do. I was in school. I was, you know, doing, you know, what I knew how to do as a woman. I just wanted to have fun. But I was just also very condescending and rude. So, I had to lay down my life and save my marriage. and save my children from being broken. I already knew that they weren't going to find that love with this other person. No one was going to love my children. This person was taking their father from their children. Like, this person was taking this time that was meant to be with their father. So how would it be if I would have let this happen or the enemy win? If I didn't fight for the veil to be lifted from his eyes, if I didn't fight and I didn't do what was not the norm. Like, how easy is it to go meet a man? Honestly. How easy is it? It's so easy. It's easy. Move on. Go find yourself someone better. That's the easy thing to do. And guess what? When something happens there, what are you going to do? Go find someone else. And that is why our society is the way it is. People don't fight. It's not. It's worth it. It's worth the fight. For your children. And for you.